live! Welcome, everybody!
My God.
Hello.
April Farley, say something to us.
Good evening, everybody. I'm at Doc Foreman. We're here with hashtag SPSM. With me is my faithful sidekick at Speaking Janish. And we are here for SPSM Cooking Night. If you don't know what SPSM is, it's the Suicide Prevention Social Media Chat. You're thinking, what does this have to do with suicide prevention? And I'm going to tell you, I'm not entirely sure, but we may get there. In the meantime, it's cooking night, and several of our production team are going to be preparing some of our favorite nosh for the evening. And tonight, I'm going to be making Laura's chocolate chip cookies. Little story, I can't bake very well, and my friend several years ago, Laura, was so disgusted that she taught me one recipe that I could cook and worked with me until I knew how to do it. It's a thing I know how to make. And I just leave it out and make the one thing. And I'm making it for you tonight. We're also going to be chatting a little bit about recent media about suicide, because a lot has happened in the last week or two. And we're going to talk a little bit about how SPSM has influenced national conversation about suicide and suicide prevention. And I think we have a lot of interesting sort of things to share. Additionally, the American Association of Suicidologists really started being more intentional about its social media and regular old media. And Chris Maxwell's one of the heads of that committee, and he's going to be talking about it tonight. But Tony is running the camera since I'm running the mixer. So Tony, maybe you can help switch the camera and introduce the next member of our team.
If everybody else just introduces each other, I'll pay attention to who you introduce, and I'll just...
Everybody say hello to Mr. Tony Wood.
Can you guys hear me, or can she?
Yep, Tony, hey, what's going on?
How are you, everybody? Bart, will you say something to these kind people?
Good evening, everybody. Dr. Bart Andrews, Vice President of Clinical Practice and Evaluation at a groovy little crisis center in St. Louis, Missouri, Behavioral Health Response. You can find me on Twitter at Bart Andrews. Currently involved in a little bit of dialogue with some folks that think that healthcare should be a privilege and not a right, and I'm just trying to have a pleasant conversation about the benefits of universal healthcare. Cook a little, and let's talk about suicide prevention. I think they all go together. Don't you, Tony? We lost Tony. Did we lose Tony?
I do. I personally feel that healthcare is a strategic good. But how about you, Chris Maxwell?
I love healthcare. But I am Chris Maxwell, the coordinator of member engagement for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Happy to talk about media and some of the new stuff that we have kind of coming up and that we've been working on. And like April mentioned, trying to figure out the best and most effective way to talk to people about suicide and suicide prevention. And tonight I'm making taco muffins, so you'll get to see that.
That is like the most vagina sounding snack ever.
It
is.
Is there an origin story, Chris, behind the taco muffin?
Yeah.
We need an origin story for the taco muffin.
I love you, Bart. I love you, Bart.
I want to hear the taco muffin origin story.
I love you, Bart.
I love you.
Superman issue 3. He made no, I'm totally kidding. No, there's no origin story to the taco muffin.
Total control of this show. This is great. It's 2 minutes in. Ladies and gentlemen, the king of family medicine, social media, Mike Sevilla.
What? Hi. Hey, everybody. Yes. Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Sevilla. I am a family doctor and SPSM groupie. And I have no idea why I'm here. But I don't cook. But I do like consuming food, so I support everyone else in what they're doing, because everybody's working hard, and you know, that's all I got, Tony. That's it.
I'm joining you for just a hop, skip, and a jump from One World Trade Center. There's a lot of activity going on here in SPSM. It looks like maybe April and Jane have something to say. I don't know, man.
Yeah, we'll be the commentary guys in the peanut gallery as these guys are trying to
get
cook.
started with like what we do, like sort of step by step with the cookies, and Jane's actually going to do it, right?
Put it all together.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the things you'll need. We went ahead and posted the recipe for this, but the first thing you're going to do as we get started is you're going to cream things together as you always do with cookies. So we're going to put shortening, brown sugar, vanilla and water in, and we're going to cream that. And we have a few questions, or a little bit sort of to talk about some of the media that's been in the news. And while we get these first set of ingredients going in our handy dandy KitchenAid mixer over here, I was wondering if Chris Maxwell could tell the story of how the AAS media team started just a couple of months ago.
So yeah, I mean, it became pretty apparent that as a large agency, things were going to be happening regarding suicide, and it would be best if AAS's voice could lend to the conversation and potentially steer it in more helpful and effective ways. And so April and Tony and Bart and a few of the other members and board members of AAS, Desiree Stage, Andrew Hooven, Emilio Leto, a few of us kind of started pitching around this idea of creating a media committee. And like I said, the real idea here is to create a committee that can forge responses in basically real time when things happen, when tragedies happen, when things like 13 Reasons Why come out, to lend a little bit of support to either other agencies or people who are already talking about it. Been kind of working on, we've put together a pretty decent team, and I mean, so like this week in particular was relatively stressful because you know, obviously Chris Cornell died from suicide, and it was incredibly sad for a lot of people, and we knew pretty much immediately when we heard the initial news reports that it was going to be bad. So we wanted to get out in front of it and make sure that we had a responsible response to his death, and to help organizations kind of
tell us who Chris Cornell is.
Effectively steer that. Chris Cornell was the lead singer for several different bands, Audio Slave, Temple of the Dog, Soundgarden. So he's been a major voice in the grunge scene since the early 90s.
So that means his fans,
like April
so his fans are reaching their what, late 30s or late 30s to mid 40s. How old are they? How old are these people?
Well, so I was definitely a fan. I listened to him a lot during high school. The majority of his fans, and I'm 30, but I would say a majority of his fans are probably in the exact range that he was at. So I would say 40s to mid 50s. And so it fit squarely in the demographic that we know has the highest rates of suicide, which is middle-aged men. And so we, well, Des, actually, we needed to steer this press release specifically to highlight that fact, and that a lot of men are experiencing thoughts of suicide and are dying from suicide in this range, and particularly the ones in his fan group.
Yeah, and these are people that be fans of this particular type of music, and they're also a fan of him personally. So this is kind of it's a way of facing this more effective outcomes-based approach for communication. Which I think
because we didn't. I mean, the other side of this is, and we saw this a few times, but when other organizations come out and they just say, "Hey, this guy died. Here are some resources." It's like, that's nice, and I'm thankful that they do that. But are we really? Is this? Are we taking action steps here? Are we giving people information that's useful? Are we changing how people are talking about it in the moment about something that's relevant? So
yeah, exactly. And I really love the way that Des reframed this, and that this is a tragedy that we've lost Chris Cornell. And we should also understand that this isn't a singular public health event. This is actually a really common public health event. And so the story is, we've lost Chris Cornell to a preventable cause of death, a top 10 leading cause of death, and for men in the middle years, one of the leading causes of death. And probably people didn't know that. And so not only did we lose Chris Cornell, but on that same day, we lost another 120 Americans, many of them middle-aged men too.
So have we been disappointed, April? Have we been disappointed in the past about the way these events tend to get coverage? Because my impression of how suicide gets covered in the media is that you get a kind of Mad Libs kind of coverage where they kind of fill in the names of the people, but it's sort of the same coverage over and over again. And then like more responsible outlets will like list resources at the end, and that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, and I would even say even a couple of years ago, we were super thrilled if people just didn't use the word commit suicide, and if they put the crisis number in there, and if they didn't tell the story like, well, he was a rocker, so he was just depressed and he was going to die, and that's just what happens to musicians. So it used to be when somebody died by suicide, it was a tragedy, and we tried to tell a narrative or a story about how terrible and sad it was, and is it inevitable? Well, all of our great rockers killed themselves or died of drug overdoses. But instead now, you know, it's really common to see people start to include the lifeline. That's been a change in just the last couple of years for coverages about suicide. And now we're starting to have people put public health information in the news coverage. And I thought that Dez's way of doing that was great. And it resulted in a Mashable article where that's what happened. What I thought was very important about that was Mike Anessis, who is an SPSM alum, who was quoted in there. We've had Julie Serrell being quoted. It's in Mashable, which is a major social media outlet. And, I can't predict who's going to die by suicide. I just know that people will do it, and some of them will be famous. Right now with the death rates being what they are. So it behooves us, if we are interested in public health, to be ready to talk to the media and to be thinking about messages that are important, so that if they're going to ask, before they weren't even talking to folks who knew anything about suicide, right? So now they are talking to us because we've done things to have relationships with journalists, and we are thinking about what our message is going to be. So, I mean, Chris had a media kit together and ready so that very, very quickly, instead of a month later, we were ready to respond right when the journalists were looking to put those articles together. I mean, we did a lot so that really effective news coverage could happen.
I think many of our organizations are dominated by academics overall, and that's not a bad thing. I don't mean academics, the dirty word. I mean, these are people that are dedicated to a certain, very narrowly defined study of a particular subject. So they're not always the best people to think of how to produce the best media response to some subject matter of a rock star that they don't even know who that is. So that makes for an interesting mix of responsibilities. Like we have, as AAS, we have a tremendous responsibility to the public to be responsible about the subject of suicide and its effects on communities and families and friends. But we don't have some giant media budget. We don't have a bunch of media moguls sitting around our board saying, oh, how can we fix this communications issue?
And our researchers are trained in communicating one way, and our clinicians are trained in communicating another. And a lot of that training is actually often incompatible with media coverage. So it's kind of important that gap gets filled.
Yeah, and that's an interesting. I think that Mike Savella might have something to say about the family medicine response to this. Like how does family medicine deal with communicating about suicide and suicidal ideation?
Well, something that just came up in this conversation. If I could ask a question, I mean, you guys said a media kit was built. That's fascinating to me. What is in that, or what kind of information is in that?
Hey, Chris.
Yeah. So really, it's just a matter of typical collateral material that gets built for anytime something like this happens. So. Social media responses, a press release is obviously the core of it. And then once you have that press release kind of already built, and we have sort of a template already in place, but we do craft very specific information for each press release, or we have so far anyway. So yeah, you have the press release, and then that kind of guides the messaging from then on. You have social media, then the website, and a couple of other things. So like any place that like the AAS listserv is obviously a core piece of that. So anytime that something happens, we have a checklist of different places that we know we have to use to disseminate this information.
So your team, so when something like this happens, your team acts quickly and says, hey, this is what happened. We have this media kit, and then you have your social media response and your other type of responses when something like this happens?
So we have some basic framework together that we use internally to build a response based upon the current events. Chris can be more sophisticated when he gets done browning meat.
That's tweetable right there. Browning meat. I think that was a band that
Browning Meat.
Browning Meat.
Wasn't a successful band.
I
but we
think
had a really good
Bart was the lead singer of Browning Meat. I think back in the day.
Bart was lead and bass guitar, as I recall. Bart Andrews.
No, yeah, can't play a musical instrument. Can't carry a tune. So I think that that's actually fake news, Dr. Mike. Definitely fake news.
Okay, how about real news? You have a steak update? What's happening there?
So the steak. So we do the steak and the broccoli are ready for actual cooking. So this is speed cooking. So I'm about to actually start the grill. Here's some grill tips when you're doing steak, folks. You want super high heat on your steaks. Really high heat. You want to get the outside crispy. You want the inside to be really juicy. Here's another little thing. The steaks are never bloody. There's no blood in the steak, by the way. This is a common myth about the steak. The reddish stuff that you see is actually not blood. So a lot of people freak out. They say it's bloody. It's not bloody. That's not what's coming off the steak, by the way.
So what if you see this blood in the broccoli? Is that bad?
Bloody broccoli is a rare treat, mostly served midsummer during a full moon in certain cultures, and I think that we need to be careful how we talk about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to be definitely sensitive to those people who.
I think we should be sensitive to people that eat bloody broccoli. Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Yeah.
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
April Foreman, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
Thanks. By the way, Bart, I hear your meat is delicious, and I am super jealous.
Oh boy, Chris Maxwell, everybody.
No, I think
so this is what meat looks like.
Brown meat.
We got brown meat. Do we have brown meat?
Delicious, food-safe browned meat.
That was my nickname in college, but I didn't know that. So
I did know that.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I know that. It's all right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, Mike.
I was going to talk about your recent television appearance on 13 Reasons Why.
Were you on TV, Mike?
The segues are a little harder when you're thinking of making cookies.
Were you on TV, Mike? Mike, are you locked up, or is it me? Oh yeah, Mike just froze solid. Okay, well, Mike.
I think I'm back. Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
Okay.
You're better than ever.
Oh, great.
Mike, talk to us.
Don't call it a comeback,
will you?
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
The return, Mike.
That's right.
Return.
Mike, you were on TV this week, and I thought that was really interesting to have a primary care doctor being on the news talking about 13 Reasons Why. And again, another SPSM alum. Not that we're your claim to fame. You really helped mentor us a lot. But could you maybe tell us a little bit, Mike, about how that ends up being that we have a primary care doctor talking about a Netflix show on television? I know you actually do television appearances on healthcare topics really regularly, right?
Yeah, so if people don't know, so I do some local TV here in my area, and it's been really cool. They have me come in like once a month to talk about health topics, and the reporter reached out to me and say, hey, do you know anything about this 13 Reasons Why? And we really want to do a story about it. So I said, sure, because I will do practically anything to be on TV. But it was really cool because one of the main things that helped me prep for it was your SPSM chat. I think it was a couple weeks ago with the filmmakers and things. So that was a good
job, by the way.
And that was a good starting point. And I got some other research on that. And I did that yesterday. It's on drmikesavella.com if people want to go and check it out. And the reporter is really good because I wrote up a blog post and she basically just did everything that I put in there. So it was really good. So for people who haven't seen it or don't know, you know, the things that I said are basically what you guys said, you know, on this SPM chat a couple weeks ago, you know, and
you did a really good job. Like right out the gate, you said, first of all, here's the lifeline. Take care of yourselves. And I thought, like, solid, right?
Yeah, because the TV people were like, we're going to do it at the end. I'm like, no, I'm going to do that right at the top. So so why me and not a mental health professional? I don't know. I'm hoping that they do some outreach to some mental health professionals around here in this area.
No, frankly, Mike, I think it's because you have a relationship. I mean, I think you've taken the time to build a relationship with the local media. I mean, I've seen a lot of pieces and the regional pieces with you in it, and you seem to get along with them, and you seem to show up on time and do what you were supposed to do. And I think that helps a lot.
Well, yeah, and I think that has a lot. I mean, I know your community too has some outreach with people in the press locally and nationally, and probably the same type of model. So yeah, it was really fun to do. I encourage people to kind of check it out, and I guess getting back to the conversation from before is that, you know, the response from the I guess, you know, the regular press on these type of stories, for me, just looking as an outsider, I think it is evolving a little bit versus a few years ago, which I think is a big credit to you guys as far as trying to educate the public and educate the press about this is how you should write about this. These are the terms you should use. This is how you should frame the story. And I think the public is really starting to talk about it more now. And not to be so much taboo about it. And I think it's being a more open topic now.
We've had the privilege of a lot of very sophisticated advice from career professionals. And that is how we eventually came to build this community that has a lot of knowledge in it. So we don't ever try to do things ourselves by ourselves. And that's the big trick. Some of the most valuable things that we learned about communicating about suicide in the media was from the Poynter Institute. Kelly McBride was the person that we met and was on our show, you know, I don't know, it could have been a year ago maybe. He had some very valuable things to say about interfacing with the media and about sensitive subjects, and it was enlightening. They really want to do a great job, but you, just like anybody's job, you can't, it's probably not best for you to show up at somebody's job and tell them how to do it. Right, Bart?
No, Tony. I think that's very effective. I think most folks, when they're out and about doing their stuff, really like being corrected. I think something that's really effective is when people are talking about suicide, when we stop them and say, "Don't say the words that way. Say them this way." I think nothing gets a really good, honest conversation going on when you start correcting people's grammar, and they open up and they feel comfortable and safe and they want to talk about things. Don't you find that, Tony? Do you find that to be the case?
I think policing language is best. It seems to.
Oh wait, that's you mean correcting, not policing, correct?
I don't know.
You didn't mean to say policing, because that's very offensive to the police.
Am I supposed to say correct? I don't remember. I don't.
Correcting language is the more appropriate.
I usually keep a flow chart right here, and I'm traveling tonight.
Yeah, you blew it.
I didn't think I just totally flubbed that. So you could just cut that part out, ignore that part, and we'll.
So
Chris Maxwell.
Real quick. I want to point out something that, Tony, you were talking about earlier with Mike's relationship with the local media there, and like how important that is, and not doing what Bart is talking about. And I know he was being facetious, but still, I mean, like the idea is to create these relationships preemptively, ongoing. You build these communities of between industries, and we have like, okay, so the Mashable article that came out from Rebecca Ruiz. She has done a few articles with kind of our input and from stuff that we've done with her, but she just inherently knows like a good way to do it. But we have that kind of relationship built with her.
I don't want to minimize Rebecca Ruiz's skills. Once again,
no,
we
not at all.
are lucky to have relationships in the media with people who are extraordinarily good at their jobs. Rebecca Ruiz happens to be one of those people, and she has taken our feedback and the feedback of a lot of SPSM members and integrated it into her own work in a way that we couldn't possibly have told her what to do, because she is a consummate professional. But that's
and you explained it way better than I did. Yeah.
Like empowering perhaps April Foreman to say something.
Yeah, I know. When we did our first contacts with Rebecca, there was a period of explaining the issue of suicide, and she did a lot of initial interviews with people in our field where there was a lot of material she didn't use, and we were trustworthy. We referred her to other professionals, so like talk to my friend over here who's an expert in this. So not only were we useful for our piece of our own information, but we said we will introduce you to our friends. And then we had friends who were good at talking, friends who were good at talking to the media. So for Rebecca Ruiz and for Sarah Schuster from The Mighty and other people who are covering this, what they found was a whole bunch of people who knew how to talk about this and were willing to like not always grab the microphone like I just did, but also like pass it around and help the reporter get where they need to go. And so having a one-on-one relationship is good, but then saying I'm a good access point to other members on this issue in my community also is very useful.
And you have somebody, if you get the chance to have a relationship with a great reporter or a great commentator or a great anchor, news anchor, you have the opportunity to give them everything that they need. And that's the give and take. You don't get to stand and take a bully pulpit and scream out your message. You get to empower somebody who's really good at delivering a message to their own audience in the way that they need to do it. It's totally not a one-way relationship. But as you can see, the results speak for themselves. We're almost at the half here, so I think it's a good time to check in with our various baking projects.
Who's up?
You are still.
So we have, this is a great recipe. So we have whizzed everything up in the KitchenAid, and I added a few extra chocolate chips, so we had to sort of sort that. We're 2 minutes away from the first batch coming out of the oven. Smells amazing over here. Wish you were all here with a glass of milk.
Bart Andrews, how are the steaks coming?
I think you're on mute, Bart.
You look great, though.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bart, how are the steak? We'll come back to you, Bart. Chris, have you fallen? Oh, though you're still there.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
I'm trying to open the corn. And the can.
I have that problem too.
I'm having a lot of struggles over here.
Every day. Can't open the corn. This happened.
That looks like a fractured avocado.
Wow.
I've mutilated the avocado nut.
It looks like you were a little aggressive there, buddy.
I have limited tools. No, things are going well. So,
that's a knife.
Oh. Yeah. So here's what I'm doing.
I was listening and
listen to this. I'm sorry, Jane is like goofing around, and I'm like, dude, what is Chris doing?
A can of biscuits.
Here's my favorite step.
Unwrap a terrifying popping can of biscuits.
Wow.
So I don't know if the rest of you feel the same way as me when opening a can of biscuits.
It's terrifying.
But I'm fairly sure that we all have some level of anxiety about this.
Oh yeah, I'm with you.
No, it's so fun. I just whack it.
I'm anxious right now.
He doesn't.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh.
My God.
That's where I'm at.
Okay.
Man.
Mike, how's your? Oh, that's where you're not cooking, Mike.
Yes, but I do have a beverage, so.
Yeah, I guess caring for the sick is enough.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'm waiting for the cookies. I can smell the cookies through the screen. I got the smell-o-vision.
I can tell you, the cookies smell amazing, and I really can. And I've cheated on it, and I've eaten a couple of chocolate chips, and I have to. I know I have to be careful with how I eat for my health, and so of course this is the worst because it's so tempting. It smells amazing.
So let's see if we can circle back to Bart.
Yeah.
Bart, we got any ears on you, Bart?
Steak.
Oh, I should just show you my a friend of mine,
Look at that.
just knitted this hot pad for me.
Unmute anytime, Bart. Just yell out the moment that you got audio. Bart, no audio at all.
Bart, you have to undo. Can you undo his mute, Tony? I think you can undo his mute from the.
Wow.
You can from the control panel.
No.
He's in. I think he's in Costa Rica. He's like a Secret Service guy.
Oh my God.
Bart, can we hear you?
Oh,
We could for a second, I think. I'm going to try it again. Bart, can you hear us?
Bart.
Say something.
He's got nothing. The stakes are burning. The stakes are burning. Yeah, talk.
This is not crab.
This is
Doug. This is a crab impression.
Yeah.
This is on the show that we're on right now. Mike, I don't think this is good TV, Mike. I don't think.
All right, let me.
Strong, and it turns out great every time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna interpret what's going on. So the stakes are continuing, and they are bloody, but don't be worried about it. And
Right.
the broccoli is also continuing.
A little blood is okay. Is what I'm
And
saying.
walks away from the camera. He's got nothing. I don't know. Maybe his dog. Maybe he's having some dog problems. I don't
The dogs, the dogs have created a lot of havoc tonight. So I don't know.
Whoa,
That
Chris
was
Maxwell.
Beautiful. Look at those
That was
beautiful
amazing.
cups. Let's see what Chris has to say if I can figure out how to get him unmuted.
All right, so we've got two kinds of muffin shells here. We've got
Muffin
actual,
shells.
we've got actual Southern baked home style muffins on this side and these two, and then we have the tortillas in the middle. And so you're gonna get something way more crispy, like a chip with the tortillas, and then just regular kind of muffiny stuff with the muffins.
Crispy versus flaky butter,
Exactly.
perhaps.
I do have butter. I just melted some, and so we're gonna
Filling these things with
brush
there,
it on.
Christopher?
Wow.
What's that?
What are we filling these muffin cups with?
We're gonna do some of them with onion and the taco meat, and then some of them with
Are you filling
beans.
those tacos with your meat?
So this would be seasoned.
I'm gonna.
That was low hanging fruit, everybody. Did you
Exactly right.
hear it?
You're keeping score at home.
She just right
There,
out the
there
low.
may be some. There may be some muffin stuffing happening.
I got you.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, taco muffins, everybody. They have seasoned taco beef and
Yes.
cheddar cheese. What else is coming in here?
Oh, we got regular taco mix, shredded cheese. But like I said, so not everybody likes everything. So I'm gonna do onions on this row, and then beans and corn on this row.
Beans and corn and finely shredded
So-
cheese. And then what's going in the middle?
So you do this is very particular. You do one layer of the meat and mix, and then you do a layer of cheese, and then you push it down, because it'll weigh down the muffins, and then you do another layer just like that and top it off with the last layer of cheese.
Wow, that's complicated.
What
So-
happens if you don't mix
There's
it
a
up?
tweet that I want to read to you guys
Now,
from
we'll acknowledge your tweet in a
iPhone
second.
7 Plus.
Okay, that's fine. April Foreman, everybody, and Twitter. What is
It
Twitter?
says, can Bart Andrews always join us from the kitchen? I'm a fan of diversifying his background. Also, what is happening? Question mark, exclamation point from the Twitter account at giveaway Noor.
We don't know.
Anyway,
No.
the weirdest spam bot I've ever seen. Anyway, go ahead.
Go ahead with muffins. Or are you going to talk to us? Did you put the cookies in the oven?
The cookies are in the oven. I've got the second batch going.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
When they're coming out, we've lost Bart entirely.
Hope Bart is okay. I hope Bart's house didn't burn down with the
I
steak.
think he's okay, right? He should be fine.
I don't care
He's
about
gonna
him.
have
How are the
to
steaks?
not even talk to us.
He looked fine.
I just worried about the steaks. That's all I worry about.
Yeah, well, me too. Really, I mean, that's That's a minimum $40 of
Wow,
grade.
Chris Maxwell is painting. He's painting.
Great. Look at him. Look at him.
Look at him go.
He's not. He's
Delicate
proud.
brushwork.
He's serious.
Look at that.
Sarah Stark wants to know why you didn't tell Amelia and Stark that you are in New York, because I think they want to see you.
I'm in New York, Amelia and Stark. What's your guys' plan, kids? Let me know.
Tweet it out.
Well, I have to be watching the show because that's how they know I was in New York, because I haven't been tweeting. I can't tweet and change the camera. I can barely change the camera without, I mean, I have an inside-out shirt on. You see what's happened to me?
Oh,
You have an
wait.
inside-out shirt on?
Yeah, I just realized that.
Nice.
When I tried to button it just a second ago. And
I have a Bart Andrews sighting on Twitter. Broccoli is
What
in
did Bart
steak.
say? How's the steak going?
It says, well, it was a good picture. Broccoli, yeah. I mean, it's
Bart Andrews?
What's going on?
Oh, man, there he is. He's
Talk to us
back.
about steaks, Bart. Let's catch up.
No, the sound completely crapped out at a vital moment in the cooking process. So I apologize. I'm sure you managed to.
It's all right.
Take
Talk
care
to us about steaks. How's it going?
The steaks are on. The coals look perfect. Just put out some pics on the coals. I think I did. Did I? No, maybe not. Maybe.
I saw
Wait,
it.
no. Here we go.
I saw
Here's
it. It's
the-
there.
Twitter doesn't let me see. Oh, here we go. Oh my gosh, Bart, that looks amazing.
Here's you got to get. So I just sent a pic of what your coals should look like,
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
and what you should.
Amazing.
So that's one of the steak. You got a high heat, and the challenge. I got to watch it though because you don't want it to flame too much. If it flames too much, that's bad.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like that. There's like, and you can let it get a little crispy, but if it gets really burnt, you lose a little something. So I have to say, I've been so impressed with the AAS media team and the work they've done. And Des commented on this. The article from NBC News, and you guys were talking about this, was really well done. Now, what was interesting is I did get it got a lot of traction, but some of the folks that are big men's health promoters get really worked up when people say that men don't reach out and get help. And that's the reason that men are dying of suicide, right? And so that's it's a sticky issue because men do seek help, but they don't seek help or reach out in the same way that women do. So it's a really interesting thing. So, but at the same time, men are more likely to put off going to get even medical care. Here's my.
Okay, no, start that sentence again.
Why? What happened?
You froze, baby.
You froze.
No. So we shouldn't blame men for this process. It's a cultural dynamic, and we're all responsible for it. So saying that men need to reach out and get help, no, we all need to be supporting men and recognizing when folks are in distress and helping people get connected with care. Instead of just saying, men just need to reach out. I was at a meeting the other day where somebody was like, "What? We need to tell people to stop drinking." Just tell them to stop drinking. These are not effective strategies to engage people by and large.
Well, they're not exactly outcomes based. I mean, it's an interesting approach, but it's measurably not a great method.
Hey, I gotta flip my meat.
Okay, flip it. Flip it. April Foreman's got something to say, unless she's locked up.
Yeah, because you've been muting me.
You locked up, and so did Bart. But it didn't. But I don't know what we're getting. But can you hear us?
Yeah, no, I can hear you fine.
I'm not getting video right now, but I'm looking at the blank screen, hoping it works.
What men will seek help for, is different than what women will seek help for. So, a lot of the guys that so if you work in VA, like I do, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Veterans Affairs, just sort of my experience as a professional. For men who are in crisis or distress or not doing well, they'll maybe seek help for not sleeping well, or a lot of times for having stomach problems, like GI problems related to anxiety. And so, they'll seek help because of not sleeping and their stomach hurting all the time, not their PTSD, suicidality, anxiety, depression. And that'll sort of come out a little bit later. But we have this very, very feminine process where you have to kind of cry and ask for help, which it isn't my first way to express distress or say I need help. And it certainly isn't a lot of the men that I know.
So I'm fascinated by that. So I think what Bart and April are both saying is that the system is designed a little bit better for women than it is for men.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? How about in primary care, Mike? What do you think would allow more men to access mental health via primary care?
I don't know. I think we tell men the same thing, and it's probably not very effective. Hey, come on in, we'll talk about it, and that's probably not very effective. I'd have to think about that. I don't know. But I do know that we do see a lot of mental health, and it's usually not from on behalf of family members or anything. I mean, I do see men that come in and want to talk about that, but certainly we could be seeing a lot more. Obviously, the numbers saying that we should see a lot more. So yeah, I don't have a good answer either.
We have Twirl and Swirl saying, when someone's in the throes of crippling suicidal ideation and they die, we haphazardly blame them because they never asked for help.
That's an interesting take. I think that it's very difficult for us to balance the concepts of providing proactive care versus this very individually choice-based, patient-centric approach where the patient's privacy and their ultimate responsibility for their own health is up to them. So when is it okay? And the system is not. I don't think the system's figured that out. There's a lot of conversation about that on SPSM and in suicidology in general, is about the patient's rights and how can you intervene without intruding.
I mean, and one of the things that we often talk about is, these signs that someone may be at risk of suicide, and there are signs that something's gone wrong, and that's a sign that my cookies are done. But we don't tell the public, and they should, that we haven't funded suicide research enough to really, and our research about the signs are that there isn't one set, and they're not very strong predictors. They let us know when people aren't doing well, but that doesn't necessarily tell us who's at risk of dying. As a matter of fact, it's a sign someone's not doing well, but not necessarily a sign that that's going on. We actually need a lot more research in that. And we've not done a good job. I mean, if I could do one better thing, when somebody dies by suicide, I would love to be able to say, a lot like Ebola, this is probably preventable and fixable, and we just haven't invested in the science to do it.
After decades of using heuristic-based risk factors, we haven't gotten anywhere. Our numbers are not precipitously dropping. It's not like the public health approach that eradicated small. We haven't gotten that kind of result. So we're yet to discover how to effectively detect and prevent suicide in anyone, let alone a specific demographic. Bart Andrews is frozen solid. Chris Maxwell is smooth as always.
So I'm curious to hear what you guys think about efforts like Man Therapy. These kind of very media-driven tech and digital kind of approaches to specific audiences, and especially ones that have traditionally the responsibility put on them to ask for help, and where this media and digital approach comes from a place of like, hey man, it's cool, do whatever you want, but you'll feel a lot better if you do it this way. And we're kind of funny and chatty about it, right? Like it takes more of a dark humor. So I don't know, and that's just one example, but are there ways that we can do that type of thing for very specific audiences? We talked about youth, and we've talked about men, we talked about women, but what about like specific audiences like video gamers or heavy metal listeners, or all these different types of kind of.
We talked about this for gun owners just last week. Like, why don't we have populations for whom this is a public health issue and for whom this really matters to them? Like, why don't we co-create their public health media with them?
To remind the audience what man therapy is, if you guys don't know what it is, it was a public. It is currently, it's still a thing, but it's no longer new. It was a partnership between I believe the Colorado State Office of Public Health, a media company called Cactus Media, and the Carson J. Spencer Foundation in Colorado Springs or Denver. And they created a set of content and materials, printed materials, that were specifically targeted at middle-aged, those sort of men in the middle, that suicide prevention has a specific difficulty reaching. Like our numbers suggest we have a specific difficulty dealing with this particular population. So they tried to target them using tools from the media, ways of narrowing down the demographic and really considering the content that was just for those people. And you would think, well, clearly that's not very controversial, but I think maybe either April or Chris can say what happened then after they did that, the sort of firestorm.
Well, some things are controversial and some things work. So like there are some really funny posters. Like I hung some in my office. Dr. Bill Schmitz, SPSM alum, has some. And there are great posters like give your mind the same attention you give your penis, which is hilarious. And men kind of like it's funny, it's a little dirty, but I mean, a little PG-13 dirty.
Yeah.
And just kind of funny. And so, who doesn't like a masturbation joke, right?
I don't know. Just by the social media replies and the discussions that I had with the people involved in the project, apparently a huge number of people did not shine to this targeted approach of being exclusionary and targeting a specific.
No, it was some of the things. So like there were coasters, like there were specific items. So some of them were racy. Some of them were items like let your partner know that a little bit of sex will help your mood. Wink, wink. Or like funny, like they were sort of meant to be funny, and then people who were not the target audience.
Yep.
Found them offensive.
Yeah.
And so like I remember even just getting some content from Man Therapy that they were like, we've pulled these so you can't distribute them. And so I don't know why, but I was like, oh, like this is sort of illicit. And of course the target audience thought it was funny, and the not target audience was like,
so this is.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, it's up to you. Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's funny because when we look at things like focus groups and we look at audience, like when we look at the specific feedback we get from audiences about some of these things, it's variable, and it's sometimes dependent on geography and dependent on local and regional cultures, or even the cultures within whatever setting you're doing these things on. So if you're running a focus group in a college campus, for instance, you're going to get potentially different feedback than you will from somewhere else. And so when I was working on a previous project, we were looking at kind of taking this man therapy approach to college age youth. And we did a couple of different versions. One of them said it takes balls to ask for help. And then one of them was like, when you can't call your mother, here's their phone number. So
I love it.
What we actually found.
Who did that? Can I get one of those?
It's probably still floating around somewhere. But what was interesting is that, so that one in particular, that one pissed off dudes, but the women loved it. So the target audience.
What did you guys think?
I can't hear you. April. Say it again.
So that is true. Like I thought it was so cute and funny, but what did you guys think?
I thought it was charming and memorable, but who's like, how were people upset? What did they not like about it?
They were like, this is either corny or just not, like it doesn't take balls. Like I don't need to be reminded about my
anatomy.
Or even my lowered masculinity because I haven't asked for help to this point.
Yep.
Like there's a.
Bart, go ahead if we can hear it.
Well, there's this huge anti-masculine craze out there that just makes me a little batty, right? Blaming men for being men, and the toxic masculinity. Oh my God, all of this nonsense that just is out there. I have a sneaking suspicion the types of messages that would work with men are the very types of messages that people are afraid to put out there because they're afraid that the safe messaging Nazis are going to come losing their crap and get all in their space about it, right? And I think that we have some serious hangups about how we communicate about suicide. And I'm going to be really honest about this. The data that we have on safe messaging and what works and what doesn't, and how messaging can be harmful is not. It's not guaranteed rock solid science, and how the best way to reach people is definitely not. I love to talk about the Mike Anestis and the Joyner article, where they basically did the only randomized control study that we have that violated all the tenets of safe messaging, and they found that version actually was more protective, more well received than and caused less distress than the sanitized safe messaging version. And so I really do think that it's really hard for people to take chances with messaging around suicide, unless I think, and to some extent, Chris has talked about this on Reddit. You do see some of that. I'm willing to bet there are certain spaces where people feel safe to have much more honest, direct messaging and promote things that are probably a little more risky and a little more what a lot of people would find distasteful, but may really work with certain groups. And I think we need to take more risks with our messaging. I really do. I think a lot of the messages, nothing's going to kill a message more than getting a bunch of people together in a focus group and saying, what do you guys think about this, right? Because unless that group is really the specific population, if I'm trying to reach 25-year-old men who are on 4chan, the message that's going to work with them or men who go to gun clubs is not the message that's going to work with a bunch of 25 to 35-year-old suicide prevention experts who are sitting in a room deciding what's going to sound good and what's really going to work. Sorry, but I think that we're just way too conservative, and we don't really think outside the box and think about take risks with our messaging, because everybody's afraid that the wrong message is going to kill people, and there's no evidence of that. And in fact, the Anestis study really drew that home, right? Our only randomized controlled study on messaging and all the safe messaging stuff turned out to not be relevant. Oh, what are we going to do about that, Tony? What are we going to do?
I think the fascinating thing about suicide prevention and media and messaging is that often, far too often, we as suicide preventionists and activists and patient advocates try to do it ourselves without engaging professionals. We don't even bother to call them and ask them. What do you think, April?
Well, so here's the thing, like, it's tricky to do messaging about anything, let alone suicide. And so, like, that is why you have people who just do media and marketing and commercial development, commercial ads and development. And this is a really tricky topic. So, I think we were so very, very lucky. We reached out to members of the AAS community, including some folks at Rheingold. I mean, they were really, really helpful in just sort of figuring out just how to do basic press releases. And then even when we were doing press releases about suicide, like, we had to think through some things. And that was pretty tricky. And we were doing it ourselves, but with some help and some advice. And it's still super hard.
Is it trickier than other lethal, either chronic or acute diseases? I mean, is it
like vaccination messaging is like
cancer or? Go ahead.
Mike, were you involved in the Hickson vaccination effort a couple of years ago?
No, I wasn't. No, I saw it happen, but no, I wasn't.
So Hickson Vax. So we wanted to do public health messaging on Twitter and on social media about vaccination, and that was actually really, really tricky. And in vaccination is it's somewhat controversial among a certain percentage of the population, but it's not like suicide that is nearly so loaded. And it was actually really, really hard. And I think suicide is even like that much harder in terms of public health.
Fascinating. Let's see. We got, there's a lot of seasoning going on in Bart's area. I don't know what he's seasoning. It looks delicious.
So I'm putting, at this point, a little bit of Italian volcanic grown lemon juice, Parmesan cheese, and we're going to do some shredded cheese.
I don't know how you grow a lemon on a volcano, but I'm fascinated, and it sounds delicious.
I don't know. Italian volcano.
Yep.
They wouldn't lie, would they, Tony?
No. They would never. They wouldn't even mislead you. They
It
wouldn't.
grows near Mount Etna volcano in Italy.
But isn't everything in Italy near a volcano?
No, don't ruin this for me. It's volcanic lemon
What year?
juice.
Near Mount Etna.
Right.
Don't ruin this for me.
Right.
My daughter went away with the only phone that was going to take pictures of things because I'm not nearly as good at Twitter as Bart and Chris. So I'm going to try to take some close-up pictures to show. We have 3 dozen cookies out of the oven, just in time.
How's it going there, Chris?
Just in time for taco muffins.
I'm good. I've got 2 minutes left in the oven, and I'll pop these babies out and show them to you guys.
I can't believe this, Mike, but we're almost down to our last 5 minutes. You got a book to plug? You got selling anything? You have an Etsy shop? Anything?
Yes, I have a cooking book that I'm plugging.
A cookbook. Cooking with Savella. I've seen the tour.
Step 1, get a Yeti mug. Step 2, get a soda.
That's it. That's our guide. Yeah. No, just follow me on Twitter and go look at the silliness of my website, drmikesavella.com, and
what is your website again?
drmikesavella.com.
And .com. So is that Dr. Mike Savella or is it?
That's right. It's I've made it so simple. It's the same there, and my my Twitter ID, all Instagram,
what is your Twitter? Sorry, I'm gonna do. We'll just cut this part out again. We'll be fine. We'll fix it post. What is your Twitter handle, Dr. Mike Savella?
So it is at Dr. Mike Savella.
All right. If you're interested in family medicine and public health and funny stuff about being funny, Mike Savella, drmikesavella.com. Chris.
How are they?
Look at those steaks. Bart, where's those steaks at?
Oh my God, Bart, one more time. Oh my Lordy, brought.
Are you going to cut one open for your final thoughts?
Shut up. I don't know.
So I think with the distractions, we're going to cut these open in a second.
Oh, they look wonderful.
We're going to find out.
Yeah.
They look wonderful. Christopher.
That is my alarm.
Oh no.
I'm going to try not to burn myself.
The last of our food in the last few minutes of the hour. Did we all find this out?
April.
Oh.
From home.
Oh.
We all were trying to time this. Look at that. Oh my God, that's amazing.
That delicious mixture of cheese and beans and beef.
And so the last step is for each one. Just take a little bit of lettuce.
Lettuce is a garden.
Maybe some tomatoes.
It's amazing.
Maybe some avocados.
Delicious. Right? Grown at Mount Etna.
Look at that.
Wonderful.
Beautiful and pink on the inside. Nice caramelized outside.
That looks wonderful. April.
I have cookie. It's delicious. It's perfect. I'm going to eat a little bit of it because I'm bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've wasted a perfectly good hour with us again this week, and we hope to see you next week here at SPSM. We got a plug for next week's show, or are we just going to call that?
So go ahead and put me on because we've got like 3 minutes left. I want to talk about this. Okay, so I don't eat this stuff very often. Holy mother of cows. These are great chocolate chip cookies. You need to make one. And you need to make one next week. We're going to be talking about suicide prevention and video games next week. That's a little shout out to our folks at the Jedi Council. Council spelled like counseling, super cool play on words, and active therapy. Chris Maxwell, didn't you do something at South by Southwest on this topic?
Yeah, Des and Bo Pinkham and I have done a panel at South by Southwest. We did a panel at AAS, and Bo and I did a webinar, peer-nar for the National Socialization Directors. So video games quite a bit. Talk about it a little bit more. So I'm happy to hear that we're doing that.
Who we got on the show? Is it Jedi Council?
Well, I've just tweeted them out because I thought that might be fun to have Chris lead a little panel on video gaming, and I just realized that they might be really cool guests. And so at Jedi Council, if you were still watching, we hope you will respond to our tweets or DM me, and we can keep chatting about this. Oh my God, Chris, that looks amazing.
That is
Oh my God.
It's a muffin.
Bert,
It's a taco
who's got
muffin.
sexy steak?
Show me again. I missed it. I
Yeah.
missed it, Chris. Show me the.
All right, all right, all right.
Show the people, and let's get it close to the camera. Oh, look.
Ooh.
Easy and delicious.
Taco muffin. And so, like,
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, see you next week for SPSM and games. Good night, everybody.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye, guys.